Today we're going to be talking about the workflow tracking features in Sage 50 Quantum Accounting. I do want to point out that this is a Quantum only feature. You will not find it in Sage 50 Premium, Complete, or Pro. So this panel over here is called the Trackit panel, and this is where the workflow tracking starts. But if you're new to the tracking, before you can use this, you'll need to go and set up your statuses. So let's go and take a look at that. In the Maintain menu, you go down to Workflow and then Tracking Status Settings. So here you can set up different statuses for each type of customer or vendor related transaction. So the statuses can be really anything you want them to be, because you build your own list of statuses. But there'll be the different stages that a transaction will move through as it progresses through your business's workflow. So, for example, if we look at the sales orders, here in the sample company, we've got 4 that were already set up. We've got to be filled, ready to ship, shipped, ready to invoice, and on hold. And if we wanted to add another one, we could just click the Add button over here, come up to the name, and maybe we want to add pending credit approval. Now, if we wanted this status to automatically be assigned to all new sales orders, we would check that box right there. And if you want any transaction that's given this status to be automatically assigned to a particular user or role, then you can choose that here. Now, the users that it shows in here are your Sage 50 users, not your employees that you have set up. So in order for someone to show up in that list, they have to be set up as a user. If you choose a role, then anyone that has that security role applied to their username would be affected when you assign the status or the transaction to this role. So for now, we'll choose a user there. The next steps is kind of a note that would show up automatically if there are particular instructions that need to go along with this with this status anytime you've assigned it. So we'll click Save there. And that's all there is to setting up statuses. You can also change the order over here. So if I wanted that to be at the top of the list, I could do that. And then you would just go through and set up for each type of transaction that you want to track statuses, then set up each list there. So I'm going to click OK. Now let's go back to our sales order window. And you can see we've got our Trackit panel over here. I'm going to open up an existing sales order. And here we can choose which status it has and whether or not we want to assign that to a particular user. If you want to make a note, you can click here on Add or Edit, and then you could add a note here. And you can see that can be up to 2,000 characters. So that note will then show in this box, and here you can choose between showing all notes or just the most recent notes. If the status that we chose up here, it had a next step comment on it, that would show down at the bottom. Now over at the top on the right, there's a second tab that can show you your history of changes to the statuses, who it's assigned to, and the notes that have been made. So in here you can assign a status, assign a person to this, or you could come back in and change it. But if you always had to come in here to find the status of something, or to change who it's assigned to, it'd be kind of a nuisance. So let's take a look at where this tracking information shows up. First of all, if we go to Reports and General Ledger, it seems like an unlikely place for it, but we have this Transaction Detail by Status report. If we take a look at that report, we can see that it has columns for tracking status and assigned to. Now you can filter that report by transaction type. So if we just want to look at sales orders, then we can easily filter the report for that. And also in the filters, you'll see that tracking status and assigned to are available also. So if you want to look at only transactions assigned to a particular person or of a particular status, you could easily do that on the report. So the next place you might look for this information is in the lists. So if we look at our sales order list, we can see that we have tracking note on here. Now that's not one of the default columns, but if you go into the settings, you can choose any of these columns over here. You see I've added tracking status, assigned to, and tracking note to my list. And once you have those columns assigned, you can sort by that column, or you can search by that column also. Now another place, and this is probably where it'll come in the most useful to you, is on My Dashboard. My Dashboard is another quantum only feature. It's very similar to the business status, but it's more customizable. So we're going to customize this page, and we're going to add in My Inbox. So you can see that here in My Inbox, I can see transactions that are assigned to me. I can also choose transactions assigned to another user or role, or all transactions. But here are all the transactions assigned to me. I can double click on one and open that up. Or this is the one other place, other than in the transaction window itself, where you can change the status. So I could change the status of that transaction right there. I could also change the assigned to. If I click on the note, I can either add a note or I can view the existing notes that are too long to read in that small column. Also, if you select more than one item, you can use this change status or assigned to button to change one or both of those settings for a whole group of items. Let's add some more things to our dashboard here. If we go back up to customize this page, and we can come down to transactions by tracking status. We'll add that below our inbox. And now we can choose which type of transaction we want to look at. And we'll get a breakdown by status name of how many we have, how many sales orders we have in each category, and what the dollar amount and the percentage of our total. And if you click on that, then you'll get a list, the transaction detail by status report, again filtered to just that group. Now, if you want to be able to see more than one type of transaction at a time without having to choose from the list, one of the nice things about the dashboard is that you can add these different sections as many times as you want. So if we go back to customize this page, I can add the transaction tracking by status again. And let's rename this one, and we'll call it Sales Order Transactions by Tracking Status. And then the one below it will be our purchase orders. Say OK there to save that. And so you can see that the description changed up there, and that's still set on sales orders. And here, once we choose purchase orders, then it will remember that setting in the future. Now, one more place that they show up, and we could add this to the dashboard, or I'm going to come over here to the Customer Management Center. It could also be added to the Vendor Management Center if you're looking at vendor transactions such as purchase orders or invoices. And we're going to customize this page to add the sales orders to it. Add that. And I'm going to move it up to the top of the list so we can find it easily. So now we're showing sales orders here in the Customer Management Center. So I'm going to customize that section and go to Settings. And down here at the bottom, you see we have tracking status, assigned to, and tracking note, any of which we can show in here. And then you'll just need to adjust some column widths so that there's room to display that information. So here you see that I can see the status of each of those transactions, and you can double click to open up a transaction from here also. Now there's one more part of this that we haven't talked about yet, and you can see that's this new notifications down here. It's grayed out because we don't have any yet. We're going to set up some notifications. So if we go to the maintain menu and back to workflow and down to notification rules. Here we can set up rules for how and when people are notified. So we'll choose a transaction type, and we'll choose sales orders again, since that's what we've been working with. And then you can choose between a condition of is assigned to, or tracking status has changed to, or assignee and or tracking status changes. Let's choose tracking status is changed to, and we'll choose on hold. And we want to notify Steve anytime a sales order is put on hold. And you can put an additional message down here. And we'll save that. Now let's go back to our sales order. And we'll change the status to hold. And we'll save that. Now we'll refresh this page. And you see that now we have a new notification. If I click on that, then I get a list of notifications that apply to me. And so I can double click on those to open them up. Or you can also click on this email link over here, and it will launch a new email with the message that you had from when we set up the rule. Then you would send that just like you would any other email. It doesn't actually get sent out directly from Sage 50. It goes through your regular email system. So that's an overview of the workflow tracking in Sage 50 Quantum. A lot of times people ask me, what's the difference in Quantum? What makes it worth the upgrade? Well, workflow tracking is one of those features. I think you can see how it could help improve communication in Office and make it easier to keep track of the stage of each order or invoice. Um, Overall, I think it's a nice feature that a lot of people just don't realize is even there.